With Mythic leveling hitting the game, there is now an insane set of choices opening up for some of us to try and decide which direction to take our team. Today we're going to take a goal-oriented look into the different options and see who could be the best choices for our first teams to level up. I don't know how you're all feeling, but with the latest patch it's incredibly overwhelming to think about which direction I want to take my squad next. And just in time for Mythic Ascensions and Mythic Journeys to be opening up, we're going to take a look together at which direction I would recommend. And this will probably be a bit of a different direction from the other content creators because, as usual, I've got a slightly different take on what's the best directions for you to move forwards. But before I get into the video too deeply, I will say that bringing a character to full Mythic is going to be very time consuming. I actually feel that it's going to be based on a lot of luck, as you're not really guaranteed the Mythic character shards beyond the initial ones you get from their Mythic journeys. However, what I'm really talking about today is who I'm going to be trying to prioritize to complete their Mythic journeys first, which is going to allow them to ascend to Mythic, and that gives them another whopping 20% to their skills. Then I will be hoping that these characters can be brought even further down the line. To start the video, I want to take you all back to basics and look at a slide I made for my beginner guide on who to level first. It's actually been one of my most successful videos, and so it might have been useful to some of you when you started, and I guess that a lot of the advice in there is still relevant today. For me, playing Tacticus has always been a goal-oriented game, where I try and set little goals to do, and that's going to help me to get to the next stage, and even now this is still how I play. So why am I bringing up this slide? Well, it's because this slide gives you the answer to where I want to take you today. In my beginner video, the early goals were to focus on opening characters, which allows you to access more content, and then later it was to specialize and push you and your guilds up the leaderboards in guild raids and guild wars. And so today my advice is going to be to follow the same overall guidelines. I believe that it's more important to prioritize doing well in legendary events than it is to do well in guild raids, tournament arena, or guild wars. The simple reason is that the changes to legendary events will allow you to bring a character all the way to Mythic. And for those of you who have been agonizing about how you will collect a character's shards to let them reach Mythic, I think it's a massive step for your characters to take, especially as the recent legendary characters have been looking absolutely awesome. There is one really big exception here that I want to call out loudly. We do keep forgetting that this is a game and we're meant to be having fun. So the real advice I would give you, make sure that you're leveling characters that you have fun with and don't just blindly follow metas or any content creator's advice. You have to be enjoying the game, and that means having fun above everything else. I would rather see you building a full Mythic Ultramarine team because you love them than anyone else. Okay, with all that clearly stated, I do want to talk about the characters I would recommend leveling up to Mythic first. And honestly, this might be very familiar to most of you because these are the characters I recommend to focus on when you're building legendary teams. It always follows a pairing of a tank and a healer at its core. And the characters are Revas and Aleph Null, Isabella and an Imperial tank of your choice, from characters like Bellator, Calgar, Titus, Butchered, or Aesoth, and then Maladus and Nauseous Rotbone. And this alone will give you a team that's going to push through each of the tracks incredibly deeply as they cover Xenos, Imperial, and Chaos teams. That's important because the first time you complete a battle in each track, you get a lot more points than when you go back and repeat it and do individual battles. Now, we all know how difficult legendary events have become recently, and so clearing stages as high as possible is going to become even more important. But thankfully, it's a lot easier to bring our characters up to Diamond 3 than it ever has been in the past, and so having a couple of Mythic characters with a bunch of Diamond 3 characters should let us push incredibly far in each event. The reason for these characters specifically, though, is that you're able to tank an immense amount of damage from the legendary event enemies. We can see it here, as this is me tanking stage 14 at the Dante event with each of the different teams, Revas and Aleph Null, Isabel and Butchered, and Maladus and Nauseous Rodbone. It's not a walk in the park though, even with maxed out characters, but remember, you would still normally take a few other meat shields to absorb a chunk of the opposition. However, I will always have these positioned next to a wall or in a choke point with a healer behind the tank. That's the best position for them. And even though some of these later battles do turn into a right grind fest, you can still get through them. It just takes some time. However, if we take a winged Diamond 3, maxed out Isabella, and the same for Brother Butchered, into stage 18, well, Isabella gets completely demolished by the first troops out of the blocks. You're really going to need to protect her much better than I did here, but even then, if you have Harlequins jumping around, or the Cadian mortar teams firing rounds into you, then it's just not that easy right now. So let's move Isabella up to Mythic 1 and Adamantine 1, and we can see that it's going to let her survive a lot longer in stage 18. She takes punishment from the smaller troops, even though I have her out here in a really bad position, but most impressively is that she's able to absorb a huge whack from the Ophidian Destroyer. Of course, she's still a low-level Mythic and only Adamantine 1, and so she isn't able to survive with ease, but her and Butchered will be able to get far into the tiers for sure, and that means higher levels for your legendary characters, which in turn means pushing them up the Mythic ranks a lot faster than anyone else. After that, I'm going to list the next batch of characters I would recommend leveling, but I'm very aware that this has already pushed the limits of how much we'll get done in the game quite a lot. So please take this as future leveling plans, and not something you should be doing on day 1 of the Mythic Ascensions, okay? With that in mind, I would continue to flesh out my legendary teams, but I would also be starting to bring in some characters that'll help me get further in guild raids as well. Firstly, on a pure legendary event level, I'm going to be pushing my favourite tank, Tyrant Guard, and his backup healer inside to Mythic. Then I'm going to start splitting my focus and bring in characters that are essential in guild raids, but also pretty damn good in legendary events as well. I would start with Tangida, who as well as being an essential member of the AdMech team, is actually one of the powerhouses of legendary events, and with his Skitarii champions getting 20% more power when he hits Mythic, as well as him boosting their armor even more while he's in his Protector Imperative stance, that is just going to be an incredible champion to have on your side. Next in line would actually be Neurothrope, because he is the pinnacle of the Neurothrope guild raid team, so his extra 20% to his skills means a lot more damage to your guild raid scores, but also he is currently the second highest scoring champion in the game in legendary events. That just means that behind Calandus, he's able to appear in more battles because of all these traits than most others, and that definitely can't be a bad character to have in your team. Although I will say that because of his close combat weakness trait, he does fall off a bit in the later battles, but with some of the most difficult battles that were added recently being close combat weakness, one hit or psyker battles, then he fits into all of them really well. After that, you've got a choice between Ragnar or Exeter Row, depending if you want to maximize the damage of your multi-hit guild raid team first, or your AdMech team first. I think it's 50-50 between them honestly, but as both are the pinnacle of their teams, and the ones doing the most damage, they are great next picks. Then we're really further down the line of what comes after that, and here it's really open to interpretation. Do you want to go further into legendary events? Then just take a look at the top characters you haven't already leveled and push them. So that's characters like Calandus, Matanio, Dante, and lots more. Otherwise, I would personally recommend picking one of the main guild raid teams and really pushing their best members into it. And I'm going to be doing a separate video coming up soon to talk about each of the guild raid teams and their best members. So hit that subscribe button and we can go through that bit together. And now let me bring all that together into an easy to consume slide. I believe that this is the direction I'm going to go with. It's the most practical set of leveling that there is, and it's going to help you to get even more characters to Mythic as quickly as possible. The only thing I might do is have a little bit of fun and build my team of really annoying live forever characters. And so that's Jude, Lucius, Titus, Calgar, and one of the other Gene Stealers, probably Isaac in there. I can't wait for you to face that team in Arena and Guild Wars in truth. So there's lots to think about with the Mythic leveling, but I hope this explained one of the directions you can go. But as always, I really want to hear from all of you. Are you thinking about following fun, legendary events, guild raids, or just whichever character you're lucky enough to get shards for? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.